Well, when the four young men burst into the house, Sean ended up shooting Zachary in the shoulder, and Letharian killed Ethan Walker, who was 21 years old at the time and had a 3-year-old baby, who was luckily not in the house. So the shooting breaks out. You don't know what happens, but what happened after the shooting?
Right. So I had no knowledge about, I didn't know if the people who came in got shot, because I knew that, the house was a known drug house. It had been robbed before. They had guns there. Like I seen Tay-K's sister say in an interview, like, oh yeah, they tried to rob that house, months before and was unsuccessful. No, that house was robbed months before. We had nothing to do with it. I had nothing to do with it. Ariana had nothing to do with it. None of the men in the case had anything to do with it. It was a whole entire different set of people who went and robbed this house. Mansfield PD testified on the stand. This is a well-known drug house in Mansfield with guns and weed. So I didn't know who got shot. I didn't know if anybody died. I didn't know anything. And so I was arrested, the very next day after all this, had occurred. And they pulled up to my house with Texas Ranger, the SWAT force, APD, Fort Worth PD, Mansfield PD. And my mom was like, thinking it was for my brother because my brother was in, so much stuff at the time and drugs. And he had, history of stealing from people, like in our family and stuff. And so my mom's like, hey, I think the cops are at the door for you, Vinny. So my brother ran to the garage and hopped inside of a recycling bin. So my brother's hiding in a recycling bin and they come to the door and like, we're here for Mia Santoro. And so my mom was like, well, it looks like y'all are here, for a murder suspect. And they're like, oh, that's exactly why we're here. She's the suspect of capital murder right now. So they arrest me, they put me in handcuffs, they take me down to the Mansfield station. And, I thought I was being smart at the time and was like, I watched the first 48. I know how this goes. I'm not speaking without my mom, dad, or a lawyer. And they're like, oh, you don't want to speak? And I'm like, nope. And they're like, well, we have 2 girls, which were the initial girls who drove Letharian and Sean to the house, placing you here at this crime scene. And we have Zach saying, the last person he saw that night was you. And so I'm like, I'm not speaking without a lawyer. So they let me go. They're like, if you're not going to say anything, we really can't, connect you to anything. If you were just the last person he seen, he was shot, he might not know what's going on. So we have to release you. So they release me. I go back home. Now it's my 16th birthday. I turned 16 that day. So I'm at home with my parents. And I guess they go and pick up Ariana and Megan. Well, Ariana and Megan, tell it all, name all the names, say that I was there, say that everybody else was there, told the story about what happened. So now they're putting pieces together. Well, then they picked up my brother. My brother was like, yeah, she said something about, there being like a robbery last night. I don't know what happened, but yeah, she was definitely there. Well, now they have my brother placing me at the time of, the robbery. So then they came back and picked me up. And this time, they drove me past, when they picked me up from my house, they drove me past like the crime scene. It had like tape all around the house. And the officer asked me like, were you here last night? And I just looked at him and looked out the window. They take me to the police station. Now they're really like hammering down and questioning me and asking me what happened and said like, everybody in this case is saying that you were the mastermind. We have, everybody pointing the finger at you. They said that you made them, commit a crime and go and rob somebody. And now somebody's, life has ended. And so, I'm freaked out. I didn't know the severity of capital murder or attempted capital murder or aggravated robbery or, any of this. So I'm just like, take me to jail. If you're not going to let me like speak to my mom and my dad and you're not going to let me, speak with an attorney, take me to jail. So they take me to Kimbo. I got booked inside Kimbo and they charged me with all 4 counts of capital murder, attempted capital murder, aggravated robbery, and attempted aggravated robbery. And so I'm charged with all 4 charges. They're pointing the finger at me. They're saying I was the mastermind. And I really just don't see how people don't understand, how did a 15-year-old make all these adults in this case go and commit a crime? I didn't have a gun. I didn't have a car. I didn't have a phone. I didn't know any of my co-defendants besides the people who were trafficking me. I asked to leave that night. I said I didn't want to be there. And the headlines is trafficking in itself. Y'all are trying to say I need to go inside and have sex with somebody so y'all can come in and rob them. Well, I was underage, and that's still legal. That's still trafficking. You can't make me go inside of a house and have sex with somebody so you can rob them.
Okay. Well, because in most states, including Texas, if a felony turns deadly, everyone involved gets charged with capital murder, not just the trigger man. So in this case, all 7 co-defendants, including yourself, are charged with capital murder and aggravated robbery.
Right, besides the 2 girls who drove the car with both of the shooters to the house.
Why were they not charged?
I have no idea. These are the questions that my attorney was asking in my trial. Well, technically there was 9 people. So why were the other 2 girls not charged?
Did you personally know the other 2 girls?
Never met them a day in my life. Apparently it was like Letharian's girlfriend and her friend or something like that.
Okay. Well, initially, wasn't everyone offered, aside from the actual guys who pulled the trigger, right? Wasn't everyone else offered like a 10-year probation and an ankle monitor?
Yeah, so me, Pimpies, and Tamor were the youngest people in the case. Everybody else was in their 20s. I was 15, Tay-K was 16, and Pimpies was 16. So I believe that Tay-K was allegedly charged with, or I don't know if he was charged, but allegedly Tay-K was involved in a crime where a college girl was shot in the head. And he didn't get charged with that. So basically they were going to do, what they did in the first case. Like, hey, these juveniles in the case, they're juveniles, they're young. There's 20-year-old people in the case. We already have Letharian saying that he was the shooter. So what we're going to do is we're going to put ankle monitors on them and we're going to give them all 10-year probation deals. So I was supposed to go to court in like 2 days. And my attorney, my court-appointed attorney at the time was like, hey, they're going to put an ankle monitor on you if you're willing to, be on house arrest while you wait for like a deal or a trial or whatever you want to do. So, I'm like, okay, I'll take an ankle monitor. So they put me on ankle monitor first. I got released by Tim Minikos and put on ankle monitor at the house. And once I got released on ankle monitor, I was supposed to come back 2 days later to see if I was going to be tried as an adult or a juvenile. And so I was at home for 2 days on the ankle monitor and was waiting to start like pre-jury trial where they have to pick your jury out and decide if you're going to be a juvenile or a adult. And then I was already in jail for I was in jail for almost 4 months before Tamor and Pimpies were like arrested for the crime as well. And so I was already in jail. And so I got released on ankle monitor first. And then they came and they were in jail for a little bit. They got released on ankle monitor as well. Well, fast forward to when I was about to be, decided if I was going to be a juvenile or an adult, my attorney came to me and was like, hey, 2 of your co-defendants cut their ankle monitors off. You're the only one left on ankle monitor. The judge is thinking about putting you back in jail because he thinks you might be a flight risk. I'm like, well, I didn't cut my ankle monitor off. I'm not planning on cutting my ankle monitor off. And they're like, yeah, well, the judge feels like, it was a slap in his face because he went out on a limb and let the juveniles in the case out on, ankle monitor. So he feels like you need to go back to the juvenile jail. And I go in front of the judge and he was like, the judge told me, like, my plan, especially for you in your case, we've had, FBI and police officers come to us and tell us, like, hey, she's a victim in this case. 13 days before the robbery happened, her and her parents were here telling us that, she wants to confirm that she was a victim of this sex trafficking crime. So we already have a whole case file on her for trafficking. So she's a victim. We don't believe that, she planned or masterminded this crime. We don't believe that she was, coercing all these people to go inside this house and, commit this robbery. She was a victim. She was a child at the time. So, technically in the state of Texas, there is no affirmative duress. Like, there is no duress for you to go to court and, claim like I was under duress while this crime happened. And so the FBI told them, like, hey, as you should probably treat her like a victim in this case, we understand that there is no, defense for that. So the judge is like, okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to offer all of them 10 years probation. And it was literally like the next day where these kids cut their ankle monitors off. So that was taken off the table.